Tell me when it's on, so I know.
Well, it's picking up the backlight, so it's blurry, but.
Roger, I almost wonder if we should have you come over here so that the lighting is not glaring behind you.
Well, doesn't it create like a halo?
Maybe.
Don't we wish? Where do we want me?
Anywhere next to Jacob.
How about right
I
here?
don't know, maybe,
I think I'm-
maybe over here.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, here you have windows.
You're gonna make me sit next to Jacob?
Only by a little
You do a little
That's
bit.
good to know.
bit. Yeah,
It's pretty hungry.
You might eat your sandwich. while we
that's
talk.
true.
Go for it.
Well, I hate to like force us to get started when everybody's just starting to take a bite on this end, but we do have a lot of our friends in Bismarck tuning in, Bismarck and Fargo, I believe. Maybe move over here myself. So we really wanted to, most everybody in Fargo is well aware of Roger and his work as well. We've got some Langdon folks also, Langdon and Cavalier County. I think just to get us started, I'd like to just provide a few introductory comments about why are we here, and then have everyone introduce themselves so we understand who's here. We've had Roger on the ground in Region 4 since September 20. He's been living in the Grafton Listico Park campground since September 20. Spent the first 2 to 3 weeks secret shopping every single town, 42 of them in northeastern North Dakota, including Grand Forks and including the Pembina Gorge and Frostfire. And we're really excited, and yet I told Roger I'm a bit sad by some of his findings because it's kind of all affirmative for us that do this work, but it does, I believe Roger's helping us kind of put light on some of our issues and helping us figure them out. So we had the opportunity today and tomorrow. We're originally scheduled to be a bunch of stakeholder interviews of different types of groups of people with Roger. And once we dug into that and Roger became more familiar with the region, we just agreed maybe 10 days ago to pivot the use of today and tomorrow to really help move the needle on certain fronts. And so that's what we're in the middle of doing. And we held a meeting in Walhalla. We just came from there. Several of us were there. I'm delighted and actually a bit touched, but we probably had 40 people in the room. Because one of Roger's findings we'll talk about has been attitude. And do we want growth? Do we want to plan for a future or die, basically? And it's been that blunt, frankly. So with Frostfire, Roger met with a handful of the board members maybe 2 weeks ago already, and just talked about, wow, there's so much potential. And I've shared with Roger, we've been working so hard to elevate Frostfire, and it's been what I call a heavy lift. We had to replace the chairlift. We're having to replace the snowmaking infrastructure. And thankfully, COVID has actually paved the way for a lot of the funding resources for us to enable us to do these things. But we really need to elevate the business of Frostfire so that we can firmly get on our feet and we can actually employ a GM rather than having a part-time volunteer, and really create cash flow positive and then start building towards a grander vision. And what does that look like? And so I've asked Roger if he would, sit down with us today, talk about all that. I invited all of the friends that are on virtually because this takes all of us rowing in the same direction. And rallying together. So, and so that's the stuff we want to talk about. We want to talk about that grand picture, but we also want to talk about the next 12 to 24 months. What are the action steps that the board needs to take, the staff, the area communities? What do we all need to do to actually seize this opportunity or not? and I'd like to talk about the or not because of the heavy lift that it is. we've been very fortunate with state, federal, and donor support to get us where we are today. But we still have quite a long ways to go to build the business model out and to become cash flow positive and to get on our feet where we can be more grand. I've shared with Roger, the board has ended up having to just constantly be filling holes. We're constantly being reactive, trying to save the business of Crossfire. And how do we kind of shift out of that mode? How do we reach cash flow positive to get us to where we can start thinking about the future? Because we haven't really been able to even get that far. And so we're currently, the state provided $900,000 this legislative session. And part of that compelling case, why would the state do that, was we wanted their money to be the 20% match to go to the federal government and secure a whole lot more money than that. So about a month ago, we submitted the federal request for $3.2 million. They meet actually on the 28th of October. So we're really hopeful by the end of the month or into November that we can announce that we've secured another $3 million, which would then restore all of Crossfire's infrastructure and grow it. EDA wants to see growth, see and support growth. Some of the growth factors built into this are, serving 2 runs that are currently don't have snowmaking infrastructure. About 18 months ago, our mountain manager had a map of the slopes on the table, and I said, what is all that? And there were all these circles with Sharpies on the map. And I said, what is that? The circles represent all the snowmaking infrastructure that's not working today, which was at least half of the snowmaking infrastructure. So having been in this business a long time, I know that federal declarations of disaster typically what follows is money. And so that's what opened up the door for us to apply for the federal funding, hopefully that we're about to receive. I've been working with EDA for the last 6, 7, 8 years talking about Crossfire. So they have been primed to fund this project one way or another at some point. Part of their funding also has been used to develop a regional tourism and destination plan. And so we allocated $52,000 of the federal money that we got as match for another 30 from the state, and 5s and 10s came out of the JDAs and the Rendezvous region, the city of Grand Forks, CVB, to go on and embark and try to enlist somebody with the caliber of Roger to give us a hand. So we're really fortunate. We had 3 solid proposals. We've selected Roger. So that's why we're here today, was that the Rendezvous region and Mike and I are on the strategic plan committee, and Mike said, we need a plan. And that was about 2-3 years ago. And so the federal money allowed us to go, okay, it's plan time. So we can put the plan on the front burner. So we've been really excited. Roger's work includes an assessment, and I hope he can dive into that just a bit, and some of his kind of immediate feedback on that. We've held 4 county workshops over the last 4 business days. We've had oodles and oodles of people coming out. We had 75 in Walsh County, 50 in Pembina County, 30-ish in Nelson County the other day. Yesterday, probably 30 or 40 in Grand Forks County. The big surprise this morning was about 50 or 60 showing up in Walhalla. And so we used these 2 days to pivot some of Roger's time and attention to what I'm calling our stuck points. Where are we stuck? And where do we need some help? And Crossfire, I wouldn't say is stuck, but we need to get out of react mode. And Walhalla has been a bit of a stuck point. Even Bismarck routinely asks me, where is Walhalla in all this? Where's Cavalier? Where's Langdon? Do people support this project or not? Because I think there are pockets of that support, but there's not this exuberant support, right? So I really appreciate all of you taking the time today to do these conversations. We are recording all of these conversations. We had to kind of throw this together, and whoever could make it, and we're going to run with it. So that's been kind of our mode for these 2 days, today and tomorrow. So we did Wahala this morning, we're doing Frostfire now. This evening, we're working with manufacturing and healthcare major employers who need hundreds of employees to this area in the next 3 to 5 years, if not today. Marvin Windows has said we can hire 100 people today, but we don't have them. So part of Roger's work is not only about tourism, but how do we create quality of place? It's interesting to a visitor, a tourist, a potential investor who wants to put money into our communities, and then the potential resident. And so we appreciate that full lens because it applies to all the work that we're doing. And with that, I just want to go around the room and go around Zoom real quick and do some introductions, and then I'd like to turn it over to Roger. So with that, Elsie, would you mind?
I'm Elsie Magnus. I'm on the board of Frostfire, Pembina Gorge Foundation, and a bunch of other things.
And the Rendezvous Region.
And the Rendezvous Region, yes.
I'm Jake Winch. I'm a developer at the Red River Regional Council.
Mike Derry, I'm the manager at Icelandic State Park and also on the Rendezvous Region Tourism Council. Bernard Denavich, just the vice president.
No, you're a landowner.
Landowner in the gorge.
I'm
Yeah.
Rachel Granovich, Vern Granovich's daughter. I'm also on the board for Crossfire Pembina Gorge Foundation and a landowner here as well.
I'm Sarah Henenkamp and I help with marketing at Frostfire.
Yep. Jacob Schmuck, also developer at the Red River Regional Council.
And I'm Roger Brooks, the visitor and chief troublemaker for these 4 counties. I'm sure people that can't wait for me to leave. Because I'm pretty much about making it black and white. So now we can go to Zoom.
So Fred, will you start?
Oh, Fred.
Got to figure out how to unmute this thing. I'm Fred Walker. I am the Global Marketing Manager with North Dakota Tourism. Family grew up in this region, and I sit in and listen to the Rendezvous Region monthly meetings. Glad to be here. Glad to see you all here today.
Mike. Mike Jensen.
Hi, I'm Mike Jensen. I'm the Outdoor Promotions Manager for North Dakota Tourism. Definitely love recreating in the Pembina Gorge, and I'm an avid kayaker and love everything that's up there.
Eric, we're going around how it appears on our Zoom. So if you're wondering what the logic is here. So Eric.
Hi guys, I'm the assistant to the regional manager out at Frostfire, and I am also the sales manager for all of Canada's Sweet Pro accounts.
Carol.
Who is that? Did you say Sarah?
Who's
Okay.
Sarah?
I couldn't understand that, but hi, I'm Sarah Adi Coleman, the Director of the Tourism Division for the North Dakota Department of Commerce. Hi, Roger. So glad you're spending some time in North Dakota. Appreciate everything. And sometimes you just need a little trouble to get everybody, thinking and to figure out what the best steps are. So super excited to be engaged in this process and to hear all the results and see the actions.
Thank you, Sarah. Carol Goodman.
Carol Goodman, I work as a consultant to the Cavalier County Job Development Authority for the redevelopment of the Stanley R. Mickelson site at Nakoma.
Jake, could you, I can't read, everybody can see, can you? Well, I wanted Roger to be able to see who's all there without turning.
As long as they can hear.
Yeah. Shannon.
Shannon Dewar, the Executive Director of the Cavalier County Job Development Authority.
Excellent. Susan.
Good afternoon. Susan Fay Crockett, Cavalier County Job Development Authority Board Member, serving as chairperson.
Thank you. Cody.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Cody Schultz, Director, North Dakota Parks and Rec. Brand new, day 10 on the job, so here to learn, but come from the Homeland Security and Emergency Management world, where a lot of what we do is facilitation and creating a culture of collaboration. So appreciate this collaboration. Also spent 8 years as a county commissioner in Morton County. So love to see all levels of government and private and public sector involved in this, but excited to learn.
Wait, and are you promising to stick around for a few years?
Yeah. You'll have to put up with me for a while.
All right, then our message is let's get to work. Roxanne. Or Barb.
Sorry about that. I'm Roxanne Hofer with the City of Langdon City Auditor.
Okay, Barb Melhoff.
Hi, everybody. I'm Barb Melhoff, Executive Director of the Langdon Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a Rendezvous Region Board member.
Okay, I think Patrick, you are it. Wrapping this up.
I get to be the last. I'm Patrick Kirby. I am a fundraising consultant out of West Fargo, North Dakota, and I've had the pleasure of working with Dawn and some board leadership on a couple of fundraising ideas and plans for leveraging some of these awesome gifts and collaborations going forward.
So I asked Patrick, we were on a bus trip recently from Fargo to Oaks, and I beckoned him to the back of the bus. And I said, well, if we have $4 million in our hand, can you help us figure out how to raise 4 more? He said, oh yeah. So that, just so you're aware why Patrick's here. So
I should further.
Hey, Dawn, we also have Patty Gardner.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't want to forget me.
I have the glare on the screen, Patty, so I can't see everyone. My apologies. I'm glad
No
you could
worries.
make it.
My name is Patty Gorder, and I am the volunteer general manager part-time and also owner of Namaste Massage and Yoga Studio here in Grafton. Glad to be here with you all.
We're so happy to have you, Patty. So with that, Roger, I just want to kind of turn it over to you. Roger surprised us when he announced that he started his career in building the ski industry. So that's an added bonus that I don't think we knew at the time we hired Roger.
Just so you, yeah, I started doing this kind of work in 1981 after working in the concert industry, kind of a big leap. But in 1981, I started on the development team for Whistler Resort in British Columbia, which ended up hosting the 2010 Winter Olympics. I was on the Winter Olympics committee for Salt Lake City when it was there. Then we helped develop Sun River Resort in Central Oregon, which is near Bachelor there. And so they're bigger scale than here in the Pembina area at the Gorge and Frostfire. But for 10 years, we did resort development. I mean, and not just ski resort. I did Copper Mountain Resort, Colorado. Then we worked on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, which was a more golf oriented. And so for 10 years, I worked in resort development. It was my job to recruit investment into these resorts. And in that period of those 10 years, we recruited about $2.2 billion in 1990 money to those areas. And all of them at the time were rural. Nobody lived in Whistler. 681 people lived in Whistler Resort. Now it's 12,000 year round. And it's 75 miles north of North Vancouver in British Columbia. But I did that for 10 years. And then in 1991, I got a call from a little town out on the Washington coast called Ocean Shores that us in Seattle area, that's where I was, called it open source. That's how bad it was. So I had to go out there and resurrect that town. And since then, we've worked in 45 states, all across Western Europe, Scandinavia, down in Africa. And up until last year, I was spending 250 days a year on the road. And so I got to tell you, there were, having worked in 45 US states, there were probably 3 or 4 things that really struck me being in these 4 counties of Pembina, Walsh, Nelson, and Grand Forks. And we didn't do Cavalier County. However, you know, Frostfire and the Gorge is here in this county. And everybody keeps saying, you got to go to Langdon. So because, and that wasn't part of our project, but that's something I need to do. But there's 4 things that struck me is, well, number one, North Dakota has always been under the radar. And part of that, as Sarah knows, I mean, North Dakota's been one of the least funded states for tourism. You're being outspent by 3 times by Montana. You're being outspent 3 or 4 times by South Dakota. You're being outspent like 9 times by Minnesota. So the only time people outside the area ever hear about North Dakota is when there's a disaster, because you make the national news. So I got to, when we first came here, I had never been north of Grand Forks. And of course, I've been in Minot and Bismarck and Fargo, and I've been in Grand Forks before. We worked up in Williston and Dickinson, and so Medora. So I know the western side pretty well, but I've never been north of Grand Forks. And it actually blew me away. I actually went online and look at the myths about North Dakota. I said North Carolina, North Dakota, like no trees. It's all barren and flat. I mean, they judge North Dakota by what you see on 94 or what you see on 29. And I even didn't realize when you get 30 miles off the freeway, it's entirely different. And so that was number one, is North Dakota always runs, and part of the problem is you have the west side of the state is considered the west. The east side of the state is part of the Midwest. So you have these 2 different divides there. But I got to tell you that it blew me away what this side of what this corner of the state or this side of the state, I was really, and it blew me away in a positive way. So that's number one. I just wish there was more marketing so that people would see the positive side of North Dakota rather than just being on the national news when something bad happens. You know, 27 disasters in 27 years. I mean, it's like, okay, enough already. As a matter of fact, last week, and I'll jump off of this in a second. Last week, we had 2.5 inches of rain, and we're staying in Grafton. And we actually RV'd here. We've been in 31 states this year. And it rained 2.5 inches one day, and my wife and I, we went over to the river to make sure we weren't going to get flooded out, because we still had that perception that this happens in North Dakota all the time. And it was like, really? Are we really buying? You know what I mean? So that was number one. Number two, North Dakota has always been known as probably the most fiscally conservative state in the country. Every single town we have been in doesn't seem to get that you can invest in the future. They just seem like all the money we have, we hoard it because we need it for the next disaster. Even, and I'll give you an example, and I don't want this to get back to Grafton, but Bill that runs the Grafton Parks and Rec, he said, you know, I wanted to build a dog park. This is what he heard, and this is what I found pervasive everywhere. We've never had a dog park before. Why do we need one now? I mean, so then he built it, and they said, I can't believe we wasted that much money on a fence. See what I mean? He was able to buy, I believe, state lands, and they were for sale for $1,000. He bought them for like $100 an acre, put a 1.5 mile trail on the river right in Listico Park. He went and did all of this stuff. And he says, I got it for $100 an acre. And they said, why did you pay that much? And then they said, oh, great. Now we just have more stuff to take care of. See what I mean? It's like, and this, we saw this everywhere. I was in one of your towns, Lakota, where the mayor in our convert during our presentation was covering ears because he didn't want to hear it. So what happens is there seems to be this mentality that we don't believe in investing in the future. And if you don't invest, I always say, if you don't invest in the future, you will die as a state, you will die as a community. So that was number two. Number three is change. We went in towns where people would come out of a town and say, what are you taking pictures of? I mean, it was like this closed mentality that you're not from here, so go away. And now that wasn't in every town, but that was in a lot of these 42 towns we were in. And it was like, are you even open to new people, new residents? And every single one of these 42 towns, except for about 3, which is Grand Forks and a couple, bedroom communities like Thompson, are losing population. Yet we run into people, and this brings me to my next point, is we're staying at Listico Park, and there's the campground is full. And I've had probably 20 or 30 people come up to me, we all meet each other sooner or later, and they say, oh, you here for harvest? And at first I thought there must be some festival or something going on. You know, I didn't have any clue. And when I said, no, I'm here working, excuse me, with the Red River Regional Council, the people from out of state, there's people from Florida, there's people from Illinois, there's people from Idaho, Utah, there's people from all over the country there, including North Dakota. And so one was from Idaho Falls, and he says, oh, so what brings you here? And I said, well, I work with the Red River Regional Council, and I explained a little bit of what we're doing. It was like, oh, that's cool. And the same with the person in Florida, the same with the person in Illinois. But when I meet somebody, and I hope you can see my face, when you meet somebody from North Dakota, and they say, so are you here for harvest? They say, no, they do this. And they go, then why are you here? Every person from North Dakota said, then why are you here? I mean, I even asked some people, you know, and here's the other thing. I've been telling people, the weather, we've been here for more than a month. The weather has been spectacular. The fall color in North Dakota, which I thought you had to go to the Appalachians for, has been just blown us away. I mean, it's spectacular. But I said the weather's been almost to a person. The weather's been absolutely fantastic. You know what the response is? Well, you haven't been here in January. I mean, really, I live in Phoenix. We don't, when people come up and say, oh, the weather here's so beautiful in the winter, we don't go around and say, but you haven't been here in July. And if somebody brings up the heat in July, you know what we say in Arizona? But it's a dry heat. See what I mean? It's always this negativity. Don and I were at an economic development. This is economic development that wants jobs. We're at an economic development meeting in Grafton. And one of the people on the council, when I said the weather's been absolutely fantastic, not only did he say, you haven't been here in January, he said, we can't leave our houses for 7 months. I mean, North Dakotans are their worst own enemy. When people interview for jobs, they usually, the employer will say, do you think you could make it through our winters? Your winters aren't any worse. Jake here is from Wisconsin. They have lake effect snow and everything. Your winters aren't any worse, but there seems to be this mentality here. And Jacob here that grew up here, he's heard it since he was a little kid. So it just keeps going. So that's the next point. And for me, it's like, how do you conquer these things when you say we want jobs, we want growth, but you shut the doors? And by the way, the people I met at this campground, and I'm sorry to go off on this because this is a real challenge. How do you change the culture? And we've worked in 45 states. I've never heard anybody in Minnesota say, but you haven't been here in January, or Wisconsin, or Iowa, or Kansas, or Missouri. I mean, it seems to be in North, I don't even hear it in South Dakota. You know, and you should be embracing your, when Bill bought that property in Grafton, the city of Grafton did it. And the city did come along, but he had to really push. He got out, they rent cross-country skis. And people go, why are you buying cross-country skis? Nobody's ever going to use those around here. I mean, this is just the attitude. But then you'd say, well, let's just try it. So they put on these cross-country skis, they do that 1.5 mile trail, and they're hooked. And the same with snowshoes. You should embrace your winters. And instead of like telling everybody it's gloom and doom, at our campground, when I met people from Idaho, Florida and stuff, my question was, I know you're coming here for harvest, then you're going to go back home. And if you're living in Florida, I get why you're going home to Florida in the winter months. Did you ever consider here? And to a person, they all said, we love it here. It's beautiful. The people are good. But when we talk to the locals, they tell us how bad it is if you live here. So the locals are telling people not to move to North Dakota. And you need people in this state. Now, with that all aside, when I first came to Frostfire and saw the Pembina Gorge, I was blown away. It is by far the best tourism attraction in this part of the state. But I also got to tell you, I was very disappointed with the Pembina Gorge and Frostfire. So for instance, Pembina Gorge. So here we go. Here's for your new state parks direct. Pembina Gorge, you go over there, it's stunningly beautiful, but you have signs that say cars, you know, cars, horseback riding, biking, watch out for pedestrians. Well, cars, number one, cars aren't allowed in the trail, and ATVs are, but ATVs don't mix with pedestrians. ATVs don't mix with horseback. There was no toilet paper in the bathrooms. There was no map brochures on the kiosk. And this is no fault of state parks. I think there was a gap in between of having anybody even there. But it doesn't say how far. When I go to Icelandic and Turtle River State Parks, they've got these maps that tell you how far the walking trails are, the distance, the ease, what you need to see, what you're gonna, if they're awesome. But Pembina Gorge, as beautiful it is, had nothing. There was really nothing there. I mean, it's beautiful. It was stunning. It was fall color. But I didn't see any more. And there are plans that Mike here said were done like in 2014. Well, here we are 7 years later, almost 8 years later. And it's like, you have this great asset. And quite frankly, there were other people there when we were there. And we're all like, well, what do you do? Where do you go? There's no information. There's no, and so it was like, you have this great asset that's totally under the radar. So that was number one. With Frostfire, I kept going, you know, the potential of Frostfire is I've worked in many places like this. And granted, this doesn't need to be a big major ski resort, but there's no reason you couldn't host a ton of weddings in this place. Frostfire could be a year-round destination, and Langdon and Walhalla have the most to gain from it. And granted, I think that the foundation has done a lot to start. First things first is let's get an infrastructure that works. But I just thought this was so unrealistic. There's no reason why you couldn't do weddings here. There's no reason why you can do family reunions here. There's no reason why you can't do team building events. I'd build a ropes course here. It'd be really inexpensive to do. There's no reason why you can't do business retreats here. And we're talking like 100 to 300 people a day. I mean, this can't handle too many people. Otherwise, you ski down the hill in 2 minutes and then you wait in line for 15 to get back up. But just if you know, I just think the potential is here to be year round. I think the summer theater could be sold out year round. I mean, this place is waiting to happen. However, I have to tell you that and I heard that when the Red River Regional Council wants to be on the city agenda and the mayor in Walhalla says no. I mean, what? And so the rumors we heard were that Walhalla does not want tourism. That's the rumors we heard. Now, anybody who would invest in here is probably going to hear the same rumors we heard. We didn't hear it from the people in this room or on the board. We heard it by going on the internet. We heard it by just talking to locals. And so, you know, and they have the most to gain. They have the most to gain. But you know what I heard today? Well, when the restaurants open at Frostfire, kills all of our restaurant business in Walhalla. I just don't get this mentality. And it just doesn't make any sense. But this could be a year-round destination. If there was a little bit, and I think it'd be privately developed. There are private people that would love to have something like this. It's really the only year-round tourism asset you have in this part of the state. And I just think the potential for this, as a matter of fact, at one point, my first thing was, why doesn't state parks concessionaire out the gorge to Frostfire so that we can have this be one experience? And I don't expect Frostfire to go build things over there, but there's just no reason why, you know, I kept thinking this needs to be one attraction, the gorge and Frostfire. So maybe you have a concessionaire Frostfire that can rent ATVs for the trails over there. See what I mean? So there'd be commerce, but there should be cabins here. There should be a hotel. There's a hotel in Walhalla, but they're not even on TripAdvisor. I don't even know if they know what TripAdvisor is. They don't respond to their reviews. And And by the way, most of the businesses in these 4 counties, they don't even claim their Google listing. I mean, I couldn't find a business anywhere in these 4 counties that even respond to TripAdvisor reviews. I've run into a couple of them that are in restaurant business and go, what's TripAdvisor? I just go, and so for me, this is really, really grassroots. I gotta tell you one thing, and I'm sorry I'm going on, I'm venting here a little bit. I think what you have is, the reason I'm venting a little bit here is because I think what you have is absolutely stunning, and it's frustrating that there are so many roadblocks basically with people. And here we're preaching to the choir, of course, but it's I gotta say, in 2018 or 19, I was the keynote speaker at North Dakota's Main Street Conference, which was the 2nd largest one in the country. We had 650 people there. And that's when Governor Burgum came up to me and said, Roger, I think you're my new best friend after that Main Street conference. He said Main Street was his #1 priority. Now that I've been in these 42 communities, about 30 of them, Main Street is not even in their vocabulary. And so if you want those little communities, we have to come from a different direction. I think Main Street is very important for some of these. I mean, and I got to tell you that out of these 42 communities, there were 2 communities that I would probably live in because I could see they were economically progressive and they have a can-do attitude. And that was Park River and Cavalier out of 42. Now, and I'm not counting Grand Forks because it's an urban area, but I wonder where Grand Forks would be if that flood had not hit them in 1997, where they could create the Greenway and actually create a world-class city, which is what they're doing. Does it take a disaster in order for any of these communities to actually invest in their future? And that is a huge, huge problem. If you want to start attracting millennials, if you want these kids that say, the second I graduate, I'm blowing this town, to come back. They want to see change. And quality of life is leading economic development. It's not jobs first, it's quality of life first. You have it in spades, but when you have locals trying to talk us out of coming here, that you're going to sow the seeds, you're going to reap the seeds you sow. And so for me, I just think this is a golden opportunity, public and private. There's no reason why Frostfire can't be a place for small meetings of it. And we're talking 300 people a day, not thousands. We don't want to overrun Langdon. We don't want to overrun Walhalla. And quite frankly, if Walhalla doesn't want to play, we'll give it to Cavalier. They're great. That will tie us to Icelandic, you know, the Pembina County Museum across the street, world class. I mean, and so that's what we're down to here. I hope this makes sense. And I don't want to hog all the time. I'd love to answer questions. I feel a whole lot better now, though.
Why did Cavalier County opt out? That was Cavalier County, their county commission that chose to opt out, or their JDA? What?
Well, and I think part of this problem, and I don't want to speak for Cavalier County, but you know, we have these regions, and people, even in Walhalla, said, why should we help something in Cavalier County? I'm going, are you kidding me? These people come, you got 1 million people in, I'm sorry, I will answer your question, or a part of it, and we'll have to ask them. But you have nearly 1 million people up the road, and Canada's going to open up the border here in a couple of weeks. And yet, you know, they say, well, we don't want to benefit anything. I mean, nobody has ever, I've never heard of a visitor in my life that says, there's the county line, stop, turn around quick. We could care less about counties. If we're people that live up in Winnipeg, the major route into the States is 29. It benefits Pembina County, but they say, well, they're in Cavalier County, why would we help them? I don't get that kind of nightmare. Here's the other problem is nobody cares about regions from a visitor perspective. Yet Cavalier County, we're in region 3, you're in region 4. Why would we help you? You know what I mean? And I'm not sure that was the deciding factor, but these are the kinds of things here that you just go, what, come on, you people. So I'll let somebody else answer that question, why they said no, but that would be my guess.
I do know that they went with the Region 3, Sandy Shively's, what's
North Central?
North Central, yes, yeah.
Well,
And
and
wasn't there another group within that? Shannon or Carol helped me with that. Was there not a tourism group that was within the Northern, North Central? Well, maybe they're not.
Nobody's answered it.
Yeah, there is, this is Shannon. There is another study being done by North Central that we're participating in that's being paid for by CARES Act funding. So really it was kind of a decision on the best use of taxpayer dollars, whether to, if we're getting one for free, to pay for one.
And you know what, if I was them, you know what, the Rendezvous region it includes this Cavalier County. But the point, even for Dawn, she said, Roger, you're working in these 4 counties plus the Gorge and Crossfire. And even though it's not in our purvey of the 4 counties we're working with, why wouldn't you include them? Because our counties could benefit the most from them. And so if I was in Cavalier, said, we'll double dip, we'd be happy for both regions to promote us. I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, we'll leverage that. And I'm not criticizing them for not being part of this. We've had our hands full with these 4 counties. But I just think there's a tremendous opportunity there. But I really believe that this is a gold mine waiting to happen. For private sector and public sector. I mean, this can create jobs, it can create quality of life. We need to figure out what towns want to be part of this. And so that's where I'm at, but where we're at with this project. But some of this is cultural. How do you change the culture? And that's going to be difficult and that's hard to do, but I also want to tell them that tourism is the front door to your non-tourism economic development. Anybody coming here is going to come here first as what, a visitor? And it doesn't matter whether they're site selector, it doesn't matter what. Preaching to the choir, aren't I, Sarah? And Fred, and they just need to understand. And tourism is the quickest, fastest way to change your economic situation. Because when we come here first, a visitor, we're going, oh my gosh, this place blows us away. This place is amazing. And then all of a sudden, maybe these people say, I want to live there. And that's what happens. And that's how it works. And so I just hope that we can change that mentality. But I really believe that this is the major attraction. There needs to be a focus here.
Well, can I speak for a second?
Go for
Okay,
it. Sorry.
So I'm in the private sector business, and I've done that all my life with my father. And I think Frostfire is turning. It's just a very, very slow process. Probably we don't see it fast enough, but I was just at my chiropractor's office yesterday and he started talking. I saw him at Detroit Mountain a couple of years ago. Here's what he said to me: we're going to go to Frostfire this year. So it is happening. And I said, wow, that's great. And I think on a private standpoint, like say if I'm a developer or a landowner, I mean, I think it's just a matter of hustle and bustle. It's like we can raise all the money in the world and we can have all this infrastructure. But if we don't have something pushing it, I'm in the garbage business. I can go buy 5 garbage trucks. But if I don't have 5 drivers to run those garbage trucks, I don't have nothing. They stand and I'm not doing anything. And I look at it as a perspective as a private business owner. What is the one thing I'm going to do when I have this infrastructure? I have this structure. I'm going to find people, right? And then I'm going to find business because people are going to do the service and we're going to bring in the money to work the infrastructure. That's kind of my mentality. And I think you're right. We need to bring in the people, but I mean, it is happening. I mean, we're putting up 3 places across the road. I mean, my dad's got land here, we're here to talk about some private partner type of developments that we can do. I've been raised here for the last 25 years. I love it, you know.
So, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to, I've been thinking about that for a long time and everybody has a different perspective and everybody's important.
But these are the little
Because-
challenges. I didn't know
Yeah.
it was you that was building those 3 houses, but somebody came and
Yeah.
complained about it today.
Oh, no.
Down how they complained about that ruining,
And if you guys knew the families, you'd go, wow, they're great people.
But that's
One
what
of
we-
the guys that are building up there, he's actually building the All True Hospital. What a guy.
but these are the things you hear.
Little boys, two little boys and a girl that are gonna be raised here, that are gonna come over here, that are gonna see that,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's the mentality that you say is like, we want some things, but then we don't want it. You want the good things that come with it, but you don't want to see the new development
Because somebody right after the meeting came right up to me and said, yeah, they're even trying to build houses. There's somebody building 3 houses up there. And that's the last thing and remember, I'm an outsider, so can you imagine that? But I think that Frostfire could keep a 72 room, nice lodge pretty full year round, because this could be a year round destination. I think there's room for lodging here. I think there's room for cabins here. I think there's room for an RV park somewhere.
The only reason why we're building them, because we want to be here.
Of course.
We want to be here. We want to ride the trails. We want to go skiing. These people love doing that. They want to, when we get done, we want to invite everybody to come and see us.
And so,
You know?
and I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You're building these houses, they're in Cavalier County,
But they're just right across the road.
Yes,
from
they
here.
are.
but they're in
Yeah,
Cavalier County, okay?
Yeah, they're in Cavalier County.
But
Yeah,
here's the
you're right.
question. When you build those houses and people move in these houses, will they spend money in Walhalla?
Yes.
But that's what they're missing. They think that you're in a different county, so there's no
Every time we
benefit
show up,
for them.
we're at
They
the
don't
restaurant.
realize that when you go down the hill, you're gonna go there to
Just
buy
got
your
to the
groceries,
convenience store, just
medical,
bought
all of
coffees
those
and
things.
Snacks, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's how short-sighted people are.
yeah.
They're not seeing that, even though it's across the county line, you're building houses, that Walhalla will still benefit. And that's what they can't get over, these geographic divides.
Yeah, did you want to say something, Bert?
Well, I've been in Walhalla about 25, 30 years. Here's what I was brought up by some of the more prominent people in the city of Walhalla. There's 2 kinds of people. First thing I was told, Donnie Bjornstedt told me this. He said, Bert, you're the first one that come to Walhalla, built a nice cabin at the gorge, and you didn't ask nothing from the city. Most people come to Walhalla, they figure the city should give you something. And this is what Walhalla is. There's a lot of good people, really good. But then you've got the person, and I heard the same thing about Rachel's. What are they doing building that cabins up there and ruining this land? But I mean, that's only a few.
But they're
then
vocal.
Another one I've talked to him, he said, oh geez, Vern, I seen that cabin coming up over the trees, and boy, that's really something to have come to all. So you've got this.
Yeah. And what happens typically, the negative voices are louder than the positive ones.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's and that is a challenge.
And this is really, it's really a friendly, good community.
And yes, I agree. I mean, the turnout we had today in downtown Walhalla was bigger than 2 or 3 of the county turnouts.
And Cavalier brought me into them. They even furnished me the land to build a transfer. I built my first transfer station in the city of Cavalier. And they furnished the land.
Because they were investing in the future. Why won't these other communities invest in the future?
You've got that Chappie here, he's a good future man here. You've got Lumberyard here. another good future man.
You're a future man.
Oh, but isn't that true, Pat?
Yes.
I try.
You've got Stremick, they're all good people. Even about hunting. People will call me up and say, Vern, you've got elk on your land. I said, you know what, if you want to come and hunt here, go to the Jackson Bar, buy these guys a beer, scout around, and you will get all the honey you want. And isn't that true? And in fact, look at that girl from Rugby. She got a trophy elk.
Well, and you know, Patty, you're on the line here and you know, that's what you've been preaching all along, you know, is to do the year-round stuff and you know what I mean?
Yeah, but, and,
Oh, yeah.
and I want to thank Patty and Dustin
Yeah.
for giving us, they came up here on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And what was really amazing
And
about
Eric too.
when we were up here on that Sunday and it was closed, there was a constant stream of cars coming here. Some of them from Thompson and Grand Forks coming up here to have lunch and it was closed. And so, you know, remember Patty, you were sitting there having to go
Oh,
out
yeah.
and haul. And so, but, and I think the money-making opportunity here is unreal in terms of ATV rentals, not just lift tickets and stuff. I mean, I just think doing weddings, doing those kinds of things, the lodging, cabins, RVing, all of those things here could create a lot of jobs and a lot of growth and would make it a year-round destination. I think I know the potential is here to really make this a fantastic tourism destination. And even people in Walhalla said, we're at the end of the road. And I said, when you're at the end of the road, that's good news. That means you're the destination. You know, versus a gateway community, which I tell people all the time, a gateway community is something we pass through to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
How do we become self-sustaining?
So first of all, here's Frostfire needs I worked in the resort development. Every single resort project I did, we had a master development and business plan. We had a master development plan that took in what can we do that's feasible that will make this place money-making, and every single one had a master development and a business plan. You've had little plans like, oh, we did a bike plan, or we did this trail plan, or we're gonna move our lifts over there. You've never done a master development plan. What do you want this place to be, and what will it be in 20 years? What do you want it to be? How many lodging units can we take? Can we put in cabins? Is this feasible? You know, I think there's no master development plan, and that master development plan needs to take in Walhalla because they're part of it. If they want to be, if they don't want to be, then you develop it up here on this side of the county line. But I believe there's no plan. How are you going to get private investment when you're not even, we don't know when or if you're ever even going to be open? I mean, people are going to, you know, you got to start with a plan. And that's the one thing, a master development plan. Here's our 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 20 years. And a master development plan, and then you build it out over those 20 years. You don't have to build it all at once. And most of it's going to be privately developed. And part of that's going to be market. What are the groups? Who are the people going to bring in? Are we bringing in state associations? You know, they travel around the state, all these state associations. I don't know where they would go even anywhere here. I mean, we might come out to Icelandic or wherever we can find a spot. But boy, in this location, are you kidding? This would be top of mind awareness. So, but little things like Patty said, you know, they really don't have a big enough kitchen here to even cater to groups. So there's some little things like that can be done. Patty has some really good ideas about the ski shop and everything. And so number one is you need a master development plan. Number two, you need a full-time caretaker here. Even if you have to close the Airbnb and let them live there, you need somebody here full-time right now I'm calling it a caretaker, so that we can burn the junk piles down the hill, that we can gradually work on taking out these old lifts and get the chairs off. You need a caretaker here that can be doing things, because right now you're relying on a handful of volunteers that have been doing it for years and they're starting to get burned out. I mean, Patty, I mean, you know, you and Dustin, you're driving from Grafton every time you come up here, you know, and you have another business to run. And so for me, it's like, then the second thing I was put a caretaker. You don't have to pay them a lot of money if you're providing the lodging for them. But you need somebody here to take care of it besides just volunteer. And by the way, if you have a caretaker here, maybe you are open on days like today where it's beautiful outside and they just want to come up here and walk the grounds or bike the grounds. You know, so it allows you to stay open without having a full staff. You know, so I think that's number two. I've never seen any place like this that did not have a caretaker. And that kind of blown me away that there wasn't anybody living here. Even if you lose that revenues for that Airbnb right now, because there's no place for them to live. You know, things like the Nun House down here, which I walked all through it. And there was a water leak. And of course, I looked and saw the dry rot. And then somebody said something about it costs about $700,000 to restore. And I'm going, forget that. I'd build 12 cabins instead. You know what I mean? Where you could house some employees and you could house customers. I mean, so there's just, you need, and that master development plan is a business plan. It's feasibility. It shows what you build, where your return is. You have to do all the market research. You talk to people in Langdon, you do research in Winnipeg. You would do research in Walhalla and see what role does Walhalla play and will they play with this? And it's all part of this bigger picture. I hope that makes sense. But I think that's the next step for this is right now, it's kind of like seat of our pants. What do we do next? And what can we fix next? And can we get grants for it? But I think you're absolutely right that you got it sooner or later, you got to figure out how do we get the people? How do we get these? We're investing all this, but we don't have any idea whether it'll ever make a return on investment.
Well, I was just gonna, this could be in the master plan, but what if you ever leased out the restaurant and the bar?
Of course.
Private person.
Of course.
They would do all that marketing
Yes.
themselves. They're gonna want people to come in. I mean, that would be an idea.
In the old days,
Yeah.
in the old days, you would have master developers. Master developers would come in and develop the whole resort. They would do the hotels, they do the retail, they do the professional office, they do everything. Those don't exist anymore. But there are companies like East West Partners. There's a whole bunch of companies. So when you develop resort areas, yes, you're right. I would absolutely lease out the restaurant. I mean, that even hotels lease out their restaurants, most of them. And so this is going to be a public-private. This shouldn't be a public thing. And so I really believe this is about private investment into Frostfire. And it needs to be partnered with the state for Pembina Gorge, because Frostfire all by itself isn't big enough. Because you could say, well, last year I did that, don't need to go back. We need the combination of things, so we'll always get people to come back.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. There's no reason. This is about jobs. This is private sector. Yeah. And I think the investment here could be great. There's no reason why this couldn't be a year-round destination.
Yeah, and then even if that's the case, then they would help host some of those events.
Of course.
It would host all I don't know where all it stands right now, but that was just something I was gonna throw out. That was an idea. Actually, it was Wednesday.
May I say something, Robert? I'm just Roger, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, you're fine. I just I got really excited when I met you just because you speak my language, and I have been compiling a list of ideas for, it's my Frostfire Dream Big or Go Home list, and pretty much everything. And in that, it's just my statement where it says, this is a living document, because it's a living document that I've created that's going to evolve and shift, right? Because as we evolve, it needs to grow. And so where there is it's big thinking and there's no limitations to it whatsoever, because anything is possible. When you build it, they will come. And so I know for myself that when I'm hearing you, it's like, yeah, number one thing that I've said to the board was like, you need to get me employee housing, because if I have employee housing, then I'm going to be able to have all these events. And of course, like, I get excited because I love to host people, right? I love to have events and I like them to go well. So I have a huge list that at some point I would like to share with you, and just basically kind of pick, maybe you could even refine even more within that. And I know Pat has it, I know Sarah has it, just because I've been, I don't like to overwhelm all folks. So as far as like events, like within this last year, we've had, receptions and anniversaries and bridal showers and groom's dinners and, I've already started to talk to Sarah. It's like, Sarah, we need to start marketing for corporate, dinners for Christmas and New Year's and Valentine's Day and all of that stuff. So it's not like that's on the forefront. Can we continue to grow? Absolutely. I just talked to to Lake Region, the college today, trying to get on their catalog for the spring so that we can actually provide a class for their students to come in as an elective to get, and that's to get credit at UND and Lake River, and also getting tour buses for the students to be able to come in. And so it's like, how do we change the culture is with our youth, right? That's how I see it. is that the youth, those that are upcoming is who needs to have the love for the place, right? And so for me, it's like being able to get the youth out there somehow, some way, whether it be with our ski school program or with, school groups coming out, whether it's attracting the UND student, the Lake River Regional student, homeschools, those folks, because that's how you remember. Like, I remember being 12 and going to my first ski resort with my dad, and basically at Sunrise, and this is in Arizona. And so anyways, and I loved it. I fell in love with it, and I wanted to learn how to do it again, right? And so, and even when I went to Montana State University, Bridger Bowl, that's what offered. And that's how I said when I talked to the registrar today, I said, hey, I got to take a credit class, an elective class at Montana State. How do we do this at your school? He's like, well, just send me a syllabus. I said, I'll get it over to you right away so that we can do that, and I see the potential just like you do. And trust me, there is a lot of fire behind where I'm at. And could I potentially love to just walk away from what I've created here? Not so much, but I have a lot of passion and a lot of vision due to the fact that I have lived and was part of the ski industry for so long, right? And I don't want Frostfire to be a Big Sky or a Bridger Bowl or Sunrise or, whatever it is. I want it to be Frostfire Park. I want it to have its own essence, and truly because it is, right? So anyhow, I just had to pipe in and say that I have a list, and everything that you have said is technically on it and more. So I hope to make it flourish, and that I know that the board is very much on it, and they trust in me so much. And I'm so grateful that they actually trust my leadership to get them to that next place. Right. So, so that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I also believe one of the things I love about Frostfire is your summer theater. It's the culture. It's not just a terrain park. And I even in the Pembina County, I think it was, the Pembina County workshop, I told them about a little town up in Alberta called Rosebud that created this theater. They now have a school there. They take 40 students from around the world, and they raised $800,000 to expand their little theater. They have a little opera house. It seats about, and I actually went there, it seats about 150 people or 200 people. And you come out there for dinner and theater, and they serve 35,000 dinners and tickets a year, and their population, 88. That is the potential here, besides the skiing and the downhill and what I call a terrain park, is that you could also have that culture. And there's just no reason why this place couldn't host 30,000 people a year over the summer season if you did that every Thursday, Friday, Saturday during the summer months, in the theater here. I mean, that's just something that I think is pretty rare. Usually terrain parks are terrain parks. But the fact that you do that, and I got to tell you, even in Whistler Resort, we did summer concerts on the mountain where people took a ski lift and they sat on hay bales, and we had the Vancouver Philharmonic Orchestra there, and we sold it out. Those are the kinds of things you could do here on a smaller scale. And so, I mean, the potential, it to me, I just think it's unbelievable. And I keep going, where's the plan that will attract private development?
I'd like to know what the seating capacity of our loft would be, where we could have summer, winter traveling theater come in over a
indoor,
weekend.
So in my experience in being involved in partnerships of hotels, you almost have to have it 70% capacity.
Yes, 60% is break even for hotel.
And you have to have that all year round. You have to have people coming,
So even the hotel down in Walhalla, and I gave them a bad time because they don't have very good reviews. But if we could go, if you went to those property owners, the people that own that hotel, and say, you know what, we want to make this a year-round destination, because I doubt if Frostfire gives them much business, because most of Frostfire is probably day trippers. But maybe they would reinvest in that hotel, and then we did add on to it. See what I mean? There's opportunities for them, but they have to know how you're going to keep. Anybody that would build a hotel here is gonna say, tell me how I'm gonna be 60% occupied. Year round. See what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's no
And
plan for
That's
that.
why maybe you get with some of the landowners around this area or even working within, but that would be interested in development.
Yeah.
Like maybe we would be, of course, and anybody else who's got,
But that's part of a master
You know,
development plan. That
it-
master development plan doesn't have to be right at Frostfire. It includes this whole area.
yeah, our needs are hotel and camping and little cabins.
Yeah.
You know,
And once you have the lodging, then we say,
Yeah.
okay, now that'll help us build retail.
yeah.
And that, because that's the number one activity of visitors in the world, not the reason they come, but the number one activity is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian friendly setting. This is why ski resorts have ski villages. In this case, we're not going to build a ski village, but we can send them to Walhalla, we can send them to Langdon. And that's going to be their shopping, a short distance away, and it's right there. That's where our amenities are. And that's for campgrounds. That's where we get our propane. That's where we buy our groceries. So they have everything to gain by this. Yeah. Tremendous opportunity here.
I think that's a
One thing
little push.
Frostfire is missing is, how come, if I don't have somebody come and help me up here, I won't be able to get in here. And I've preached about this ever since they opened up. How come they don't have a handicap access?
We're working on it.
That would have been
Yeah.
Rachel for 2 years.
That's because it's the money.
But you get all your,
But yeah,
Well,
I mean, but these are all part of
Oh,
the
yeah,
master
those are
development
just
plan.
conversations later on, but
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
well, this
I
is
mean-
what I get complaints
Well,
about.
they do-
People, they don't come to Frostfire because they don't have a handicap access. Those are people. There's no way
And those
to-
are your summer theater. We're not downhill skiers, right? We're going to be coming here for summer theater, and if you
Well,
can't
they come here
accommodate
and
us.
have dinner or
Yeah,
whatever, but
sure.
there's
Absolutely.
no way they can get in and out. of
They're
here.
afraid because they can't come up
Right.
and they can't.
And it gets slippery, our main entrance is
Yeah.
there.
Sure.
All they'd have to do, even if they would have just put up a railing.
Well, you kind of already have a drive up right there, I see, I mean.
Yeah,
it's
I
just
think part of the engineering that we just did with the infrastructure project, we wanted to tuck handicap accessibility
Well,
into
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And we
Yeah, that's
couldn't
good.
under that funding source.
Okay.
But KLJ has started design of how could we build pathways and driveways and turnaround lanes and all these other things to provide accessibility to the lodge, to the theater, and really accommodate buses here better. And KLJ would like to be able to some of our board members have even said, well, we can help, bring our equipment out and do some of this. So
But
it's coming.
But I also believe, because you don't really have an operating plan that I know of, you have other things happen, and I'm sorry to give Dustin a bad time about this, but he said, we used to do downhill sledding. I saw all the tubes down there. And he said, but one time we had an accident, some kid went over the snowbank and hurt themselves, so we just canceled it. And I'm going, you can't do stuff like that. You can't. And if you go to the state tourism website, it still says there's downhill sledding here. See what I mean? It's not connected. And sometimes, I gotta tell you, at Whistler Resort, they do mountain biking year round. And of course, we're talking mile long runs. And every year somebody dies, but and it's really sad, and they're working on making it safer. But some of these people are just nutso, but they don't say from now on, we're never gonna do that again. I think you start cutting yourself off right when people are saying, I love that. And this is a great beginner place. And you start on tubes, you start sliding down hills. So rather than just cancel something that you're known for, I would probably tend to be like, well, how can we make it safer next time? What do we need to do so that doesn't happen again, rather than toss out one of your sources of revenue? And so those are the kind of things, because there is no business plan. You're just kind of running it by the seat of our pants. You also have little other issues, like when I was here last, there was no water in the river. And you can't make snow if there's no water in the river, because that's where you get the water to put in the pond down there to get in your snow blowers. So it's possible this winter you may not even have skiing. That's why being a year-round destination is going to be really important, so that if we lose our winter for some reason, or we lose part of our summer for some reason, we still have enough revenues because we're a year-round destination that can help cover us. You know, maybe down the road, we dig wells or other ways to get water, but these are all why there needs to be a master development plan. And I'm not saying that because I'm the one to do it. I'm just telling you that it's that important. If you want to attract private investment, they want to see the numbers and what your plan is.
Yeah, right.
Well, any comments? Anybody have any questions, particularly you on Zoom? Any questions of me?
I think I'm listening to you. Master service.
Yeah,
plan,
sorry.
Caregiver, no.
Master
no,
development,
work on it.
master development plan,
Master development
which
plan.
includes feasibility and operations. So includes the money part of it. It's not just a site
We
plan.
have to bring in private.
Of course, you would. There's no resort
And they
project
have
like,
to work, they have to work with the foundation.
Of course.
It has to go hand in hand.
Of course.
They have to work together.
they would be a leaseholder. You own it, but they'll lease the land for 30 years to pay off their hotel or whatever, wherever it is. But absolutely, yeah, the foundation would still be the owner because that gives you foundation money, grant money, those things for the public side of it. But
So
yes,
how would you suggest a person does that?
Well, in the master development plan, it will say the hotel will be, the master development plan lays it all out. It lays out not just the site planning, but it also would say, this is a private business opportunity and here's how they can make their money. And here's this opportunity to lease out a restaurant or whatever. And here's what we'll give them in exchange for it. We'll give them a bigger kitchen or whatever you need. You could even lease out your equipment rentals. I would go to state parks in this plan and say, can we be a concessionaire over there at Pembina Gorge? Not run it, it's still a state park, but maybe we could be the concessionaire that would lease out cross-country skis for over there or ATVs and limit how many of them we're leasing out at a time to keep it down. You know what I mean? So we don't overrun things. And that's why you do a plan. And we're in the age of public-private partnerships. So the public is going to give us the infrastructure, the private's going to make the money and create the jobs. I mean, that's the way it works.
You know, Pat, and John, wouldn't Waters be a good, him and his wife, good people to take this over? The way they work?
Yeah, anybody that would have a desire to do it, that
Who is
could
that?
manage it would. Yeah.
Waters, him and his wife,
but
I mean, I don't know if they want it, but
But then it would-
Somebody
then it
like
would-
that.
But then it would take them out of the one in Walhalla, which we don't want to do
no,
that.
we don't want to do that, but I'm just mentioning people like that. I mean, she goes there at 3:30 in the morning and makes rolls. I mean, that's what was, and then she goes, works at the bus bar. Well, you get a couple to run this.
Well, and that's what you do need a caretaker. That's kind of the short term.
I'm in the same situation with a building in East Grand Forks. We've got a restaurant in there, we've got a bar in there. Whoever wants to take that restaurant wants the bar. They don't want to just have a restaurant.
Right. Well, the money, you make the money on booze, not food.
And this is
Yeah.
the same thing here, if you lease it out, I think the same owner would like to have the bar and the restaurant. But the reason I mentioned them, because he goes to work at 6 o'clock in the morning and works till 6 o'clock at night. How many employees could you get to do that?
Yeah, but I do think if you get a caretaker here and you provide the housing and the utilities for them, that you won't have to pay them as much because they'll love the quality of life. They're taking care of it, they're mowing it, they're making it better.
There is housing here, isn't there?
Well, there is, right now it's a revenue source. You have it, the Airbnb here it's really a revenue, probably the biggest revenue generator here. But, you know, and for whether they live in Walhalla and this is still, I mean, this is why you need to do a plan.
Except that hasn't always been, because when we need it for things that are happening here, then, you know, there have been people that have been living there that were part of the trails that we're
Right.
building, and there've been people, and in the summertime, you can't expect somebody to do a full theater production at 2 in the afternoon and 6 in the afternoon
Right.
and go back to Walhalla. to
You're
watch that.
exactly right.
So we have to have the use of it.
You do,
So
and
then
that,
so you're saying exactly what we're saying.
Yeah.
It needs to be occupied by people. who
yes,
work
because
here
it's a
or
revenue
provide-
generator.
or
Always look
provide
for
that.
revenue generator.
Yes.
But you do need a caretaker here. So, you know, do you sell the nun house for the wood in it, that barn wood, the wood that's in it? There might be some salvage value there. Do you build a cottage there? You know, 1,100 square foot little cottage that the caretaker could live in. So they're here on the premises, working every day, making it better, grooming trails, or, you know, working on biking, trimming trees, whatever they're doing to be a caretaker here. And they could also let people come up here and enjoy it and pay $5 at the gate or whatever, just to go hike it or bike it, even when you don't have a staff here and the restaurant's not open. I mean, there's those kinds of things that you could do. I mean, I would absolutely lease out the restaurant to a private sector, and in their lease agreement, say, here's how many days you're going to be open. And then, of course, we got to get people here so they can survive. You know, but I do think having a caretaker, that's just a little short-term thing to do, you know, and getting somebody here to live on the site, however, or really close, that this is their job. And then we're just talking like 1 or 2 people. They could even be retired, but still able-bodied to go out and help work things. And you know, because I don't know who's going to take down all these chairs and lifts and everything, you know, and I keep going, you know, all these poles and everything right out here. What's that? Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's, you know, the caretaker, somebody who's going to take care of this place, you know, without having to drive an hour every day just to get here to do it, like Patty and Dustin have been doing. You know, so anyway, but I just believe that once you have, just like anything, if you have a plan, you're going to get investors involved, you're going to get the private sector. This will be developed by private sectors, and the beneficiary is going to be the foundation. I mean, the foundation is going to get a percentage of hotel revenues and, you know, what's in it for the foundation so it can keep reinvesting. But at the end of the day, this is about job creation and quality of life.
I think maybe the pushback from Walhalla's businesses on the short term and not having a big plan. You're talking about developing a motel here. Well, then what does that do to the motel in town? Because everybody's want to stay out here. In my picture, right?
Yeah.
So how do you live harmoniously and not take their livelihood? To me, if they're not getting the people anyway, you got to get the people in the area and give them a chance to capitalize on it.
So
That's
here's,
what they gotta
if it was me and I was doing this, I would go to that hotel owner and say, we want you to fix this one up and build another one, and you own them both.
Yeah.
That's the way you make this work. And that's what we did in Whistler, in Hilton Head, everywhere I've worked. We always went to the local. So one of the city council people in Walhalla is a welder. Okay. And I said, we'd love to give you the welding. He says, well, and I said, and by the way, whenever I've worked in resort development, we always gave locals, we'll pay up to 10% more to hire locals over farming it out to the cheapest bidder in a different state or a different city. And he says, well, I don't know that I can handle that much, but you could be the contractor that farms it out so that you're still the local source. And then if you need more help welding, then great, get other welding shop. And that's how you do it. I would go directly to that hotel owner and say, what are your plans? What is your long-term plans with? How many rooms do you have? What if we could find ways for you to reach your occupancy levels with Frostfire so that it's worth you investing in that? How would you like to build another limited service hotel? Because we don't want a full service hotel that's going to compete with restaurants. I would go to the restaurant owners down there where we just had our meeting this morning. And I say, how would you like to run this one up here too? How would you like to contract that and the catering and everything? I mean, I would always do that. I would always do that first. So they'd become a partner with you rather than
Welcome in
competition.
there and let them know that this is what we need. We need more. So we want to work with you because you're important.
Of course.
And you know, you're important to this.
Yeah.
And how could we do that, you know?
So I think that's going
And I
to be,
think
but
it's
that's a
all-
really good point that you make.
You know, we've been through a pandemic. Everything's expensive. Wood is expensive. Everything's hard to buy. It's expensive.
Right.
You can't get it.
Well, right now it's a real problem. I mean, housing costs
Yeah,
have
but-
gone up
but you-
20%.
Yeah,
and-
I know. You
but-
know,
but-
it is, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just think that by,
But we're still building. So.
Of course we
we're
are,
just-
yeah.
We just gotta move ahead.
Right.
We have to look at the future.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I started my garbage business was always about how am I going to get the information out and who am I gonna get to hire to do it? And then I worked on what I needed for infrastructure.
Right.
But that's how I did it in life. I'm not saying, you know what I mean? And so I would say right now, you gotta get the revenue in here and you've gotta get the people.
Well, you gotta at least show how you're gonna get
Yeah,
revenue.
right. And you're right, everybody, we're running with, like Don said, filling holes and we're panicking about getting this done or that done. And, you know, a lot of the people on the board, or I know myself, I run my own business and I too have been so pressured to not have enough time to do the things that I'd really like to do, but it's just been hard.
Yeah.
Because I found myself, I'm the president of my company and I found myself dispatching trucks for a week while our dispatcher went on a truck. So I got knocked way down the totem pole, and I was just fine right there because I kept my business alive. That's what I
And that's
did.
happening across the country right now.
Everywhere, yeah. So I have to hand it to this board because, and I'm serious, they have done a great job.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
far.
I think so too.
And I'm new, so I'm not, but you know what I mean? So I'm here learning and I'm here to help.
And I would also, for this Frostfire, I'd be talking to your properties. When Dustin took me out on an RV or on a ATV out here side by side, we went over onto another little piece of land. He said, if the owner knew we were here, he'd probably come out shooting at us.
Yeah.
And so there's some of those things where you say, well, can we get an easement? We'll pay you for an easement. We're not going to take your land from you. Or can we get little slivers of land to grow this, to connect things? Even in the state park plan that was done in 2014, they're trying to get pieces of property.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a way we could create public-private partnerships. Well, can we lease the land or we'll pay you $3,000 a year? So you have 3,000 or whatever it is, you know, I'm just throwing out anything. And just saying, so you always have this revenue source and all you have to do is, and you don't have to do anything. You know, all we want is we just want access to a corner. So there's little things like that you could build into it. But I just think that this is really something here. I gotta tell you, Jake, right here, that's from Wisconsin, when he got this, sorry, he was just probably gonna go use he's probably headed to the LBR, little boy's room. But when Jake came here to get this job from Wisconsin, you secret shopped the area. What role, and you're in Grafton, but what role did this have to do with your decision?
Say at least 50%.
At least 50, and so if you didn't hear him, he said 50% of his decision was seeing what there was here to do in this area, even though it's an hour away from where he lives. See what I mean? That's the power of this, besides it's just having amenities like this in a state that has only 2.9% of its land is even public, which the next state is like 20%. I mean, that's how important this is to the whole picture, even in cities like Grand Forks. I mean, even Julie that runs the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Grand Forks loves promoting this place. And but for Jake to come here, you know, and say, well, once he saw this, it was kind of like, okay, I get it, right? So there you go. Okay,
For
now you're
those that don't
excused.
know Jake's story, I offered him a job. He kind of politely said, okay, when do you need to know? I said, oh, great. Now I gotta really sell him. So Stacy in our office said, you never know, he's probably here right now. So she had a sixth sense that Jake, and he did. He came the next day, secret shopped us from 7 hours away. And then I think somehow we reconnected that next week and I found out you had been here. And then I begged him to come back so I could give him the tour because our local restaurant in Grafton actually told him he would be crazy to live here.
So I just want to throw something else out too, that back to running something private,
Public-private partnership,
There you
yeah.
go. A lot of times they work well in their families. When I see resorts, I see family. You know, I have a place in Cass Lake, every resort I go to, almost all family. Something to think about.
Yeah.
A family living here.
Oh, that's the old farm concept. You
Of
know, you
course.
have 13 kids. And
Homesteaders.
then as soon as the last one's gone, you sell the farm and move to town.
I
So
don't
any-
think the board has really thought about this idea of
Public-private
partnership.
Of
You know,
course.
we have several businesses in the region that are run this way. The city of Michigan, I think, owns half the city of Michigan. We own the grocery store, we own the bar grill, we own retail on Highway 2.
Sure.
And it's all leased out then for private running, and we've done daycare centers like that.
The first year we started, we actually had a young family or young individual that was going to lease. He was gonna be he was gonna manage the place, he was gonna do the outside work, he was gonna lease everything here. So we've looked at it, that didn't work
To
out,
find the right
but,
fit.
but that concept does work and we would look at it again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have probably my best friend, he was the best man at my wedding. I was at his and all that. And he worked on an island up in the San Juan Islands of Washington State called Blakely Island. They manage the island. And you get one of these people that knows how, they know enough about electricity and plumbing and carpentry and all these things that they can be a caretaker. And they do it because they love the place, not because they make a ton of money. And then they get their housing, if there's housing there, you know, and in their case, they had a caretaker house there. And I call it a caretaker, it'd be a manager. And then as you start to develop it, then it grows from there. But that's just to get from point A to point B. You know, but for any private business that want to invest in here, their number one question is to me, show me how I'm going to make any money or get a return on my investment. That's where your plan comes in. Without that, you're not going to get private investment here.
And we've gone to the big players, the foundations, Shields. We weren't ready 3-4 years ago. We've got a better story to tell. We need to develop it, like you say, but we're getting closer to a point where we can go. We're getting the right people on board and we've got a story to tell. We'll get there and we're working towards that.
And once you have that plan, you can also get, when you said Shields, it just reminded me that with almost every resort or development like this that I've worked with, we also had sponsors. So Shields might be painted on every one of the lift towers. See what I mean? And they pay money for that. It's like buying naming rights to a stadium. And so you could even do, you know, so there's things like that. But that once you have that plan, you'll also get sponsors. So that's besides development money. So those are things that you can do. And of course, sponsors want to know, well, how many people is our name going to be exposed to? And if we can show in the plan that it's 300 people a day on an average
Have
of,
you seen the
you know,
pamphlets we put together?
for Frostfire?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, man, they're
I
good.
think-
And I think Patty dropped me off a whole box, right, Patty?
She had to drop off.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna start throwing those into my chiropractor's offices. I'm gonna start, you know, initiating
The
some
magazine.
talk with the people, who just put the cabin up over there. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Now that I've got that big box, I'm gonna start throwing those around and working with them, and we're gonna get billboards up.
I've been down in the
Yep.
Minneapolis area a couple times and I've dropped them off at every rest area I stopped in.
Yeah.
Cafe.
Yeah.
And there's little challenges, you know, for instance, Frostfire hasn't even claimed its Google listing. So, okay, well, okay, well, whoever managed, if you manage
I
it,
change the hours whenever we need to.
You know what?
well, we were here that Sunday.
You know, I wonder if
We were
Roger's
here.
picking up the old website.
No, not the website. We were here with Patty. People were driving up here and I pulled out my phone on Google. It said you were open that Sunday and it
Then
wasn't.
That's my mistake. And I-
Okay, so
My
that's
way of
where,
saying it is true.
But
okay,
to a point you made earlier, I don't know how to change. If I put my address in, I'll either end up on the Canadian border about 14 miles that way, or on the south side of Highway 5 about 5 miles. And I live 6 miles directly that way from
Yeah.
here, if I could fly that way.
So-
So I don't know how to change
okay.
that.
There's Apple Maps and Google Maps have a map correction and then there's NavTech. And I've got information I'm gonna do because if you type in Pembina Gorge Recreation, State Recreation Area on both Google Maps and Apple Maps, it takes you like 3 or 4 miles down here. Not even, it doesn't take you anywhere close to where the gorge is. It takes you off somewhere else. And so those are things that they both have map correction. And those are something that we're going to try to create little videos and stuff for to get those corrected so that we can do that for here. So, well, I'm glad that you do have that Google listing because the whole time we were here, it says, do you own this business? And I'm
Yeah.
going, well, normally it wouldn't say that. Okay, wow, that wasn't there when I was here 2 weeks ago.
I played
So
it.
anyway,
I
thank
have-
you.
I have played it. a year
Okay,
ago.
great.
Yeah.
Claimed it a year ago.
Wow.
I
okay.
respond to the reviews as well, which I think is very.
Oh,
important.
yeah, we saw that in the Google reviews. And I don't know if you're on TripAdvisor. I hope you are, and if not, that's another, there's gonna be all kinds of things
Yeah.
we can do. So,
There is a problem when we, whatever the website, I'm not aware, but that we couldn't get the domain or somebody
oh,
bought it
there's,
and.
people will hold domains hostage all
and
the time.
That's given us a little heartburn as far as updating.
But there's other little things, that when you pull into Walhalla, you see signs of Frostfire. I had no problem finding this place, I just followed the signs. But I had no clue what Frostfire was. I don't know whether it's an ice cream shop, a restaurant, it doesn't say ski area, it doesn't say terrain park, it doesn't say Frostfire, summer theater and terrain park. It doesn't say, it just says Frostfire. So we followed the signs here. The gates closed, and there's nothing at the gate that says when you're open. There should be a reader board there that just says we're open
Okay,
on
tell me-
Fridays and
tell me what a
Saturdays.
reader board is. What do you mean by a reader board?
A reader board would be a sign that you can change out lettering on.
Okay.
Any kind of a sign that says, in September, we're open on Fridays and Saturdays or whatever, but there was.
Is that what you're talking about? So I can show it?
Yeah, well, that's a temporary sign. Those are, but
Not
that's
electronic.
similar. The temporary sign like
Okay,
that.
Sure. I was
But,
looking at
but
it.
when you come up to the gate, it's just closed. And we were here senior shopping twice and we figured it was out of business. There's no sign that says we're only open on weekends in September. There's nothing. And so that's another challenge. Just like the people that were driving up here, when I was up here with Patty and Dustin, they're driving up here and they're driving all the way from Grand Forks because they thought it was open. And at that time, Google said it was open and they were driving all the way. And there's no signs down there that says, I'm sorry, here's when we are open. Because your hours change depending on staffing, depending on the events. And even in Walhalla today, people are complaining that nobody ever knows when or if this place is open, even in your neighboring town. And so there are some inexpensive things we'll get right now, because even Patty, when we were here on that Sunday, said, well, next weekend we're going to be open. I went, oh, I didn't know that. And when I was out there with Dustin, he didn't think they were going to be open. See what I mean?
Well, the same thing happens in Walhalla as well, because, I had to hook up with the gal to buy something at the chamber office today because my daughter's gonna be home. I know they're not open on the weekend, and she was one of the ones there with the baby. And so, she ran over and unlocked and I got what I needed there, which is why it was delayed a little bit getting out there.
So I think there's some things we could do pretty inexpensively to just like, say, Frostfire, Summer Theater and Terrain Park. And then when you come up to the gate, you might just put, here's when we're gonna be open. And like right now, you don't even know this winter. You may not even be able to get snow because there's no water. See what I mean? And if it doesn't snow, we're gonna be, so that's where you might need a reader board in downtown Walhalla before they come up here and one at the gate. The one at the gate would be less like a temporary sign, would be an actual sign that says, welcome to Frostfire. And then it has just a schedule of events. But I always say at all these places, invite us back. If you're closed, at least invite us back. We will be, hopefully we'll be open the beginning of December, could be on the reader board. And here's the URL. See what I mean? Just as an invitation to come back. And I think those are some of the things you do. So we'll come up with in part of our plan is some things you do short-term, just to make it more community oriented, just to help people out with marketing, with all of this. So
One of the things I think would be really important, we have a board of, 9? I think it would be important for, for some, I'm not gonna probably be somebody that's gonna run a ski lift or work outside grooming trails, that sort of thing. And I don't know anything about the bike. I might try biking. I was on skis for the first time. That guy that said he couldn't ski, I was on skis for the first time last January, and I did
Awesome.
I went 3 times.
Okay,
Three different days that I was out here. So, but I think it would be good for there to be the business heads. I mean, I think we need to be those people who are really passionate. I'm a musician. Theater is a big deal to me, but looking at the theater part of it and perhaps bringing in some traveling troops on the weekends or something that's special for a dinner theater. Again, I'm thinking
Oh,
about
yeah.
upper space up there, if we can get that accessible. But I think it would be good for us to have a little bit more division, not dividing, I shouldn't say that, we should more direction from those people. Like Dawn has all that experience in, you know, and all the grant writing. And so I've never
Yes.
written a grant. Well, I shouldn't say that. She's got way more access to grant writing than I do. And the knowledge and the experience and the education to be that person.
Right.
Whereas maybe, maybe one of our other board members is much better off doing the research into how you get a bike.
Yeah.
And somebody else, how you get, I mean, so I don't want us to be separate. I don't want us to be.
Well, you have
individual,
departments, they're
but the
departments in the
department,
same.
and then listen to each other and give equal weight and be cooperative and never looking for ulterior motives. I think that's just so important for there not to be.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I absolutely agree. Yeah. And that's one thing I love about this. I actually love the fact that you have theaters, not just terrain. When you're a terrain park, you're absolutely everything is subject to weather. I mean, I've run into ski resorts that almost go broke when there's no snow. Heck, I worked in Whistler over the 2010 Winter Olympics, the year they didn't get snow. You know, and how did they deal with that? And so that's what's nice about summer theater.
And I would think on the other, on the,
And even winter theaters.
in the middle parts, I mean, the Wednesday afternoon, we have the theater, but if we had some kind of entertainment on a Wednesday night where people might hang around and have dinner and see a show at say 6 o'clock and then go home, or be prior to the season and after the season, have those weekends, let's have a concert out here and have somebody that's kind of well-known, maybe we can't get Adele by any means, but you know, we can sure get
I don't
somebody.
know, I
that-
was trying to get to Minneapolis like heck last weekend to see Drake White, and I
Yeah.
realized the venue he was playing in was like 500 people.
Well, I gotta tell you-
You need Drake White out here.
We did a master development plan for Big Sky, Montana. And when we did that Big Sky, Montana master plan for a village at the base of Big Sky Resort. And by the way, the population within 150 miles of Big Sky is about 160,000 people within a 150-mile circle. So it's not like there's a lot of people live there. I mean, you get Bozeman and, you know, Jackson, Wyoming, and some of those areas. But we wanted to build this amphitheater in the middle of the village that would seat about 5,000 people. We didn't know if we could get 5,000 people to attend, but I came in the concert industry. We got Bob Dylan to agree to come to Big Sky, Montana and sit there in a temporary amphitheater that was hay bales. He agreed to do it. And then we said, okay, now we got to sell 5,000 tickets. We sold them in 12 hours, all of them. So it just shows you that, you know, that doing concerts here on the hill, like we did in Whistler, I mean, could be huge. That is the potential of this place. You know, so if we can do it there, you can do it here. And you got Winnipeg, that's a whole lot bigger than what you got, you know, anywhere else. And I think people from Grand Fargo, I think people from Fargo, I think people from Minneapolis would drive out here to see Bob Dylan with 5,000 seats, you know, or whoever it is. So and one of the reasons he agreed to do it wasn't because he was going to make a lot of money. It's because he liked the intimate setting where he could be himself. You know, he hates doing concerts, Bob Dylan. You know, that's not his personality. You know, and so, you know, and so coming from that industry, I mean, these are all the potential things that you have here.
Do you have an inside track with Bob Dylan? He's Minnesotan, you know.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I haven't been in that industry for quite a while, but I did that. I got out of the industry in 81 and we got Bob Dylan in 1998 or something. So it wasn't that long.
21.
Yeah, we're not that far away. But anyway, I mean, those are the kinds of things you do.
I can't see the screen.
You probably have
Here's-
natural amphitheater here anyway that could be used for everything, and then you set up an amphitheater. Just like we did on Whistler Mountain, we brought in hay bales, we built an amphitheater, and we had a portable stage in, and we had the Vancouver Philharmonic Orchestra. This is like a 70-piece orchestra. This is not a small production. And I think we sold 4,000 seats, and they sold just like that. And people were driving from everywhere, and they're spending the night. So that's the key thing: lodging, RVs, cabins. Where can we spend the night? So anyway, I mean, that's the potential of this for this whole area of North Dakota. I think most of it will come from Winnipeg, probably go straight down to Grand Forks and Fargo. I mean, I don't know. I know they do stay in I know they stay in his park a lot. So the RVers and those will come in here, but are they really spending the money in these towns? And look at this.
You bring the Couriers into Jackson Barn, it fills it up.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if everybody online's been really quiet. They're probably off doing other stuff by now, but.
No, Roger, I do have a comment. This is Mike with North Dakota Tourism. I just logged into our partner access site. Notice there's no contact, or there's nobody in there editing the listing, which is why there would be tubing and things like that on there. We just need to.
Yeah, I reached out to someone a couple days ago about that. Is there a way to, is that what would happen? It was Amy, I think.
Yeah, yep. I could add it right now and send you a link, and you could log in and edit everything, add pictures. That's where most of when we pull things for our press releases, all that sort of thing, it all comes from our website.
So Mike, you could send that to me and I get it on to Sarah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
We got to get tubing out there.
That's wonderful. Maybe we can get it back on too.
Well, I hope you can get the tubing back. I don't know what shape the tubes are in. They're down there. I saw them piled up. But I mean, I hate to see you. This is a beginner place. This is a family place. This is not meant for extreme skiers. I mean, and so I hate to see you lose the tubing. I mean, I don't know this backstory. Dustin said we had an accident once, so we just canned it. And I'm going, you can't just give up on that. I mean, that's a revenue source. It's things kids will always remember. It's what they do before they ever learn to ski. You got the magic carpet out there. I don't know if that works for teaching people how to ski. I mean, so I hope you get it back. I don't know what shape it's in, but at least for right now, you can take it off.
We do want to get it back. We're just not quite equipped to do both well.
Yeah,
So it's the experience thing about it a little bit.
From what I understand from Dustin,
tubers don't work with skiers either, so.
it's difficult to build.
We don't have enough room. We're just not equipped
Yeah.
to do it safely. We want to bring it back, and we will. but
Okay.
We're just not quite there.
Yeah. But that's great that you'll have access now to the state site. so
Is
you can
that
go
too
in there.
noisy? I can turn the sound down.
So any other comments? Anybody online that Zoom questions? I mean, about Frostfire, about anything I've seen in my month here? By the way, in my 40-year career doing this is the first time I ever spent a full month anywhere we worked. And so it's been really good. I mean, there's no way I could have ever done this without going into every community and actually spending time there.
And there's no way we can do it without the guidance, because we've been fumbling around trying to get this place on its feet for 7 years, and we need help in putting together that master plan, and not just putting it together, but implementing it.
Yeah. It is your best sales document to get investors, is that plan. Yeah. I even think cities need to. That's why cities do comprehensive plans. It shows what our future is going to be, and that's what attracts residents. And so it's the same thing as city. That's what you're creating. And that plan needs to be done. You go to Langdon, you go to Walhalla, you look at everything and say, who can we get as partners? What's feasible? What is our programming? Programming is huge. Programming means what are the activities available every month? And then by season, and what do you do if there's inclement weather? What if you don't get snow, or you get too much rain and we're not mountain biking? You have all those, everything's built into that plan.
Excuse me, do we have a booth at the Walsh County Fair? We should.
A whole bunch of things.
I will be there, but my booth is political. I would be happy to take a stack of those.
I think,
Okay, so who writes the master plan?
So usually what you do is, and by the way, I do not believe in RFPs. So this includes everybody in Bismarck. We don't ever answer the request for proposals. What you want is a statement of qualification. So you could write up a one-page that says, we are the owners of a terrain park and summer theater program in Northeast North Dakota. We need a master development plan, a 20-year master development plan, feasibility and operations plan. Tell us why you're the company or the person we should hire to develop this plan. Tell us what your experience is, what your expertise is, and tell us what your methodology is. You can do that in a page and a half, whereas an RFP, when people come to us and say, we issued you an RFP, I got one yesterday from the state of Maine. They said, Roger, we sent an RFP out. I looked at it and I called Donna. She goes, Roger, are you going to respond to the RFP? I said, no, because I don't believe the scope of work you outlined will work. I've been doing this for so long. I don't believe that's the methodology you use. In your case, you say, what is your methodology? If you don't like their methodology, you don't hire them. See what I mean? You find the methodology that would work. Then when, like what you want is a statement of qualifications, SOQ instead of RFP. So you want an SOQ and then say, tell us why you're the most qualified. Tell us what your experience is. Give us your references and tell us how you would do this. And then you said, give us a price range. So you don't need to go in there and say, we already have a predetermined budget. I can tell you how much it costs anyway, but then what you're going to do, and I will just say, but then what you're doing is you're looking, and I say you always try to get the most qualified. And if you can't come to terms with them, go to number 2 on the list. You have one chance to get it right. And that's why we only request the SOQs. I mean, even in this case, I think Don might have called it an RFP, but the way I read it, it was really asked. And she did say, what's your methodology? I don't think Don had ever heard of an assessment and how we go secret shop cities. We came up with that, and her board said, out of these 3 or whatever your final were, that we like this methodology and we like that experience. And that's how we got this job. But if it would have said, we want you to go to every city, we want you to do this and this and this and this, we may not have responded, because it might be something that we say, this isn't really going to work, and in our mind, it wouldn't work, then you don't want to hire them anyway. But that way, I say, if they're the experts, you tell us how you would do it. Don't make us tell you what to do. And so that's why I believe in SOQs. To probably do this master development plan, and this is going to be the sticker shot, is probably going to be about $100 grand. Because you're talking about site planning, urban planning, you're talking about interviewing, you're talking about cities, you're talking about accounting, tax, you're talking about all of these different things. I mean, it's probably going to be pretty expensive, but it will be your roadmap for this whole place. It would tie in the gorge, state parks. We talked to state parks about concessionaire agreements, and I'm not sure even if state parks has concessionaire agreements, because I know, like, you rent your own kayaks and things like that, rather than have concessionaires. And I don't know if the park does the down by where you rent the kayaks, you've got the little, see, they do that. So in some states that we don't use concessionaires. But those are all the things you got to find out. You got to get down in Walhalla and talk to the hotel owner and the restaurants and find out what role they play. You've got to look at the geography, look at the weather patterns over the last 10 years. One question anybody's going to have now is, what happens if we have another COVID, they close that border? See what I mean? Those are things that got to all weigh in there. And so that's why it's pretty comprehensive. It'll probably take about 10 months to complete it, because we're talking about site planning and everything. That makes sense? So it's not cheap, but it's your roadmap to the future.
I would say, what is our capacity? Like, we know what we're kind of bringing in now, and we're getting more skiers. Can we bring 50% more in and still handle it? I mean,
we've had about 180 was a big day last year. We're projecting 400. We need to gear up for 400 if and when the border opens. We hope we'll get that. I think we'll double our crowd.
I think you will. I mean,
well, it's going to be pent-up demand.
That's 2 days a week, or maybe you get 400 on a Saturday. Maybe you don't get that on Sunday. We won't average 400, but we would like to be able to handle 400 a day.
And there's going to be things like, and a positive thing is putting in the new electric cars, getting new snowmaking guns. All of those things are going to play into this. Another thing that might come up is, well, if we lit the ski area, can we get people to come and do night skiing? If we get people to do night skiing, they're spend the night, that's more feasibility for a hotel. So you can see all these little parts that go in. What's that? Yeah.
So
see-
I guess what I would need to know from Patty and Dustin is what required help do we need here? Like, what do we need here from start to finish? Every day, 7 days a week, we need this much staff every
20
day.
people.
Well, and
20
that's all, yeah, and that is also in your development plan too, so.
But I mean, even just.
Oh, yeah, for
going.
now, right now, this year, yeah.
20 people and where and how many hours and what, I can help with that.
Now, somebody did complain today down in our meeting that I can go to all these other ski areas in the region and it's way less expensive, that you should give a local discount.
I called, I don't mind the local discount, but I
Yeah.
call BS on what he was
Okay,
told.
okay.
To some
I mean, I
extent
don't-
though, because Botna Winter Park season, Pat, I pulled it up while he was talking,
But-
it is less.
I
But-
would like to know what you consider local too, because I don't think it's a bad idea, but as local, you have to be a resident of Walhalla and Langdon and Cavalier and Grafton.
Or-
What's
or-
local?
Yeah, what we did in Whistler, and in every resort I've worked with, we always did a local discount. And we even extended to their families if they were accompanied by their family. So if they had people visiting for Christmas, they could come up and get that local discount, but they had to be with that person. And usually what we did, we put it by zip codes. Or in Canada, postal codes up there. But what we did is, we did these, if their driver's license or whatever they have for ID has it within these zip codes, then they get that discount. So.
What's that radius, sir?
Yeah, what's that radius? For here, I would probably say, I would probably go out maybe 10 miles. I don't think, how far is Langdon on the other side? I don't even know.
Well,
18
Langdon's zip code goes all the way, it goes probably 60 miles.
So you could just do it by
58249.
city. You could even just do it by city that, if you live in Langdon, if you live in, and that's on your driver's license, your ID, then in that case, you get that.
Well, if
discount.
you're in Langdon, the zip is 58249 if you have
Okay.
that, but that still goes way out past Langdon. I'm in the Langdon zip code and I'm 21 miles from
Well,
Langdon.
maybe zip codes, just too broad.
Then
That's
don't
what
do
you're
it by
saying.
city, do it by city.
Just do it by.
But there may be people that are 20 miles out of Langdon that still have a Langdon address.
That's what I'm
And there's
saying.
not much you just say, well, that comes with the territory. I
So
mean,
that
that's-
58249 would work
Yeah.
because that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you just do that. I mean, and there's always gonna be people trying to abuse it, you're always gonna have that, but at least you get local support. You have to understand is social media, if your locals are endeared to you because you give them a discount and everything, then they're gonna tell their friends and family on Instagram, Facebook and everything, it's gonna spread. And so they're part of your marketing force. So that's why it's worth
The free
doing.
passes make you money, because if
Oh,
I give you
sure.
a free pass, you hope you're gonna bring your
Yeah.
kids. and you're gonna spend-
What percentage discount do you give them?
Usually, I'll give you 3 different discounts. One is veterans. And they usually veterans will get like a 75% discount, because these are veterans. So if you're veterans, whether you're active or retired, you would get about a 75% discount. Sometimes now people will do first responder discounts would be like 35%, and a local discount would be like 25%. So this is rough. I mean, it just depends, but usually about 20, it's not a 5% or 10% they go to other. But a 25%, it makes a difference.
You think maybe we can see somebody else's master service plan? and just-
Oh my God. If you go on the web and look for, if you go on the web and you start Googling ski resort master development plan,
Yeah.
you'll probably pull up some
Yeah.
PDFs or something. Yeah.
Well, if anyone wants to buy my garbage business, I could move up here.
But the good news is you have a business that's recession proof. This isn't.
You're right.
So that is one
Except the
thing.
labor issue. The labor.
Except for the labor. issue.
You know, I think about many things, and including what happens with, if you're talking about the 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan, is that it's not that long ago that we had to burn wheat because it was too wet to harvest, and it had been soaking wet the whole summer. We've been progressively getting drier since then. I suspect we're gonna progressively get wetter at some point. It's gonna turn around. So we have to be ready for that, because you can't bike in the mud. Then maybe you can, but.
Well, you can't ski if there's no snow, and you can't make snow if there's no water in the river.
And I
So
was
those
just-
are all those things that
I was
compound.
just listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about the Chehika Zoo in Wapaton, and how that the bears are already a month and a half ahead of time bucking into their dens. They're preparing, they're eating, you know, their weight in gold as far as food, and they're packing their dens and getting ready for winter already.
Okay.
And it's, you know, and they.
It's a good sign, I guess.
Well,
Early and often.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But-
but we have to be ready for it if there is, you know, that's the difficult part.
But at the state level, I just believe that state level for tourism, that this right here could be a major attraction for this side of the state. And you tie that with Icelandic State Park, which is as good as any state park I've seen in any of the 50 states. And I'm not saying that because Mike's there. It really, that's the way we, the first time I saw it was across, I was across the lake at the country club, and I looked over and went, oh my gosh, that looks incredible. I didn't even know that was a state park yet, because we came out of the country club and then. But I really believe that if you take Icelandic, and I think the museum there is great, and then the museum across the street is fantastic. It was one of the only ones that was even open. All those buildings were open. And we walked in there, we could spend all day there. I just think the combination of this and what you have at Icelandic and what, you know, and the museum, those three things were the top tourism attractions here. I mean, they're the best in all 4 counties. And there's lots of little lakes and stuff, but I don't know how you compete those against Devil's Lake. They don't have this. Nobody has it. I mean, we go into Wisconsin. I was in Wausau, Wisconsin. We're the skiing capital of Wisconsin. We have runs that are 700 feet long. I'm from out west. Our ski runs are a mile long. But, and what this is, I mean, this is phenomenal. The states around you don't. I don't know of any place in Minnesota that has something as good as this. And in Wisconsin, I don't know, Jake. I don't know if there's any ski area that could outcompete this.
Similar ones, both same size.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a potential, this place.
Would you suggest putting a state, some sort of, and we have.
I have a skate rink here would be absolutely in the plan. I gotta tell you,
No,
Oh, he's
we've
talking-
thought about that already. But, a state
Oh, state.
representative to be on our board, we've
Absolutely.
had them in the past.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they had to get off somewhere
I would.
people.
I absolutely
We
would.
need that, we need a better communication with the state. We need some,
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
to get recognized over
That's
here
right.
as part of the state.
Hey, Pat, have you ever talked to Lyle? You know, he's a big donor here. His impression was he would like the golf course to be part of the ski. Did he ever tell you that? Is there something we should do something like that with the golf course?
Absolutely, if we could
You
figure
go to
out how to make it work.
Medora owns the golf course. And Lyle was all for it at the time I talked.
Well, I think it's about survival, and that's where Lyle's looking at surviving and how do you said it at the meeting in Cavalier, golfing is biggest
Fastest declining sport in America is golf.
So we have.
And
a-
most golf courses are really struggling. Most cities are repurposing. If it's a public golf course, I don't know.
Well, we have this golf course, and a bigger donor, one of the biggest donors we have, that his passion is the golf course, right? This is probably,
Who owns it? Is it a?
Is it private or public?
it's public.
It's public. Yeah,
I think
most,
it's kind of like this. I
Okay.
think they're on a nonprofit status, and they
Okay.
have board of directors that runs it. So
Yeah.
similar to what we're set up.
the only way you develop golf courses now, golf courses are developed when you can sell residential properties around it. That's how they fund the golf courses, because it makes the property, the residential, but that's not gonna happen
We
here.
don't make any money.
No, golf courses don't make
But
any
at
money.
the same time, it can be a good draw. So if you don't, if
Sure.
your family comes up and the kids bike, maybe you want to go golf.
Well, and a lot of
It's
golf
not all
courses
part of
in Sun River Resort in Central Oregon has 6 world-class, PGA rated championship golf courses, but in the winter, they're cross-country skiing courses and they groom trails through the golf courses. So there are other ways to make a golf course work.
I did talk to one of the directors this morning about that. So.
Yeah. But most public golf courses are, we get a golf pro to lease it out at $1 a year and they try to make their go with it. I mean, golf courses add to quality of life, but that's about it. They're not real. I don't know, very few golf courses make any money.
But Vern, to your question, yes, if we could figure out how to take care of that in the scope of the gorge, yeah, we would look.
Oh,
at
it
that.
should be. I told Don on our way out, I wanted to drive in there just to take a look because it's part of this picture. I mean, it's even up there on the state's plans, so yeah. Mike, you've been really quiet. Any comments?
Well, I would say that we did a plan in 2014. And I'd like to know how you think that would tie into the plan here. We had some-
Huge.
We had some really good public input
Yeah.
on that. We had a meeting in Walhalla, our first meeting. I was there, so kickoff meeting. I think we had 74 people. show
Good.
up for our first, so the interest is there, I think. Whether they're interested in not moving forward, that, it could go either way on that,
But absolutely, whoever's doing this plan is gonna absolutely look at what did the public say then? What is it and how does that integrate with this? Is there a way we can partner these together? Absolutely. I see this as one destination, not 2 separate things.
I think the personality of Walhalla has changed since then.
I feel like that too.
I think it's gotten to be more negative and more chip on the shoulder kind of thing. And I think
Well,
that's
you
something
think
that
that the first group of people we'd want to go to is the local bar down there and saying, hey, can you run this bar? Would you run this bar? Would you be
I think that
willing
is
to
a
be-
level of brilliance to it as far as smoothing
Yeah,
and
straight-
listing.
straight
No,
to
I
the red
can go
door,
there,
take
I
a
can
left.
go there right now.
I'm gonna head to the LDR for a second. Be right back.
You know, the problem is.
Straight ahead.
I wanted to,
Straight ahead.
It's hard for me to come back. It's hard for me to.
Take a
focus
left.
there. If I were here and I lived here every day, I
Where it says
really think
food.
I could do a lot of things,
I'm sorry.
Well, I built a house here.
You can work
it
remotely,
looks like
right?
we have about 10 minutes of battery life left.
Okay.
So I'm kind of wondering if the state partners want to add anything else before our battery dies. Roger had to run to the restroom, but I'm wondering if anybody else or Cavalier County folks want to share anything to the conversation.
We could get here at the boundary on the Sophie. The old folk, she cooks. She was a cook over at the temple.
Well, I want to just thank all those online for attending today. I think we're gonna have to shut down the connection here, so I think we're gonna just leave it at that and say stay tuned. We just wanted to have Roger share some of his findings and perspectives as well as some of the vision. So with that, I just want to thank all of you online